Hey, everybody. It's a real exciting time for us in this class because we are going to start learning about how entire movements and pieces are structured. Up to this point, we've been really concerned with chords, individual measures, cadences, and now we're going to take a step back and take a look at large scale forms. I've prepared some slides to help us with our discussion today. We are learning about binary form, which is two-part forms. So, what is a binary form? Binary generally refers to two different things. And so binary forms are two-part forms. We often represent them with big capital letters A and then B. Why a B? Because it's usually contrasting material, something that sounds different from A, which came before it. So let's relate the new concept to something we've learned before. Do you remember what a contrasting period is? It looks something like this, where you would have two phrases, one labeled with a lowercase a, followed by a phrase labeled with a lowercase b. Again, the different letters because they have contrasting material or contrasting melodies. And then the first phrase would end with an open cadence, and the second phrase would end with a conclusive cadence, creating a periodic structure. Well, take this information. Contrasting periods are a micro representation of a larger binary form, looking like this. So you can see at the top, we've got the contrasting period model, which should already be familiar to you, and the new idea, binary form, which instead of talking about the form of two phrases, we are actually talking about the form of an entire piece or an entire movement. Using a big capital A to show an entire section, and then another capital letter B to show a contrasting section, which would have multiple phrases in it. I also want to point out an interesting relationship between the cadence structure of a contrasting period and a key structure, modulation structure of binary form. Check it out. Contrasting periods end with an open cadence, a half cadence. Well, the half cadence to a contrasting period is equivalent to modulating to a new key by the point of bisection of a binary form. And then the pack we would get at the end of a contrasting period is kind of a phrase level counterpart to modulating back to the tonic key by the end of the B section. And so this is a very common kind of type of modulation scheme we associate with binary forms. But keep in mind, even though this happens a lot, it doesn't always happen. There are some binary forms that do not modulate. So keep that in mind. A few terms that are related to these concepts are continuous and sectional. Continuous refers to those form designs where we modulate by the point of bisection. It also refers to any binary forms that have an inconclusive cadence at the end of the A section, like a half cadence in the tonic key. Basically, if you end on any chord other than tonic from the tonic key, it will be a continuous form. Compare that to sectional forms, which occur when the A section of the form ends with the tonic chord in tonic. So a conclusive cadence like an IAC pack or plagal cadence in the tonic key. Basically, the logic here is that sectional forms could stand on their own if you played just the A section. You wouldn't need any other material for harmonic or tonal resolution. And a few other terms to keep in mind. We have different types of binary forms depending on the elements used. So the generic model I showed you just has a big A and a big B representing two contrasting sections. There's also the two-reprise form, which I'm showing you on the right-hand side of the slide. And that's whenever the sections have repeat signs. This is very common, particularly in the Baroque era. And when we have these repeat signs, it actually makes analyzing the form that much easier because they become visual cues to help delineate the form. So the main model that I showed you, where it's just A and B, we refer to that as simple binary when the B section has no recurrence or restatement of the material that had occurred in the A section. However, it is quite common to actually restate a part of the A section at the end of the big contrasting second section. And you can see here the term is rounded binary for this particular form. And here the model would show that we have a phrase that was used in the A section that is restated at the end of the B section. We're still hearing it as a binary form, two big parts, but there is some restatement of the portion of A. So that's the difference between simple and rounded binary. Finally, the last set of terms I want to give you are really a variation on rounded binary. It's a type of rounded binary. It's called 32-bar song form. This is one of the oldest forms that we have, and it's a very specific kind of form where you have 8 bars, 8 bars, 8 bars, 8 bars, and then what is sometimes called the middle 8 or a bridge is the contrasting material. And so that's a very specific type of rounded binary form that happens enough that we want to have that term available to us. So before we move on to some more exciting examples and less of the theory, I just want to recap the terms I want you to know related to binary form. Again, these are continuous versus sectional. Basically, can the A section stand alone or does it need continuation? Is it simple or rounded? And this is the distinction between whether or not material from the A section is restated at the end of the large B, in which case it is rounded. If not, it is simple. Two-reprise form, and that's basically whenever a binary form uses repeat signs. And then finally, 32-bar song form. That's when you have 4 phrases, 8 bars each, and the third phrase presents the contrasting material, which is often referred to as a bridge or the middle 8. So now that we have learned some critical concepts to the idea of two-part and binary forms, in the next video series, we will look at some real examples of how these principles play out in real musical examples.